So now I've got my paint choices picked out. I've got some really thick paints, some thin paints, some mixing paints, a little bit of everything because I wanted to go over a few of the different methods that I've learned along the way that have helped me save paint, save money, because I don't like to waste. Like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, I've wasted a ton of paint and I would like to not do that anymore. So anyway, I'm always going to start by putting on some gloves. I'm getting really sick and tired of cleaning paint out from underneath my fingernails, so I'm just not going to do that anymore. And I'm going to put up with putting on gloves all the time. Hopefully I don't develop a latex allergy, but if I do, we'll just switch over to vinyl. Not a big deal. I'm also a nurse, so I know the different options out there. So I use my biggest cup for the colors that I'm going to use a lot of. I use a lot of black, I use a lot of white. So my largest cup's going to always have my black and white in it. And I'm going to start by shaking up my Floetrol. This is a 16-ounce cup, so I'm going to put in about 8 ounces of Floetrol to 8 ounces of this one's Artist Loft Flow Acrylic. It's a thicker paint, so with the thicker paints I go 1-to-1 ratio with the Floetrol paint. So I'll just fill that up. Half and half. I use this little stocking to catch the schmutz, or whatever you want to call it, that dries up in the Floetrol. Sometimes you'll get these long little, I don't know what they're called. Tell me what they're called, because I don't know what they're called. Just little pieces of dried up Floetrol in there, and it can ruin a painting. It's happened before, so I don't want to do that anymore. I learned from another artist on a different video to do this, and it's been working great. So, try that. When you're getting low on your paint to the bottom, but you don't want to waste what's still in the bottle, I usually let my paint bottle sit on its side for a while, hours and hours, maybe a day or two, and let all the paint drip down to the bottom of the bottle. I'll empty out as much as I can. Do that. I'm still able to get some paint to come out. You can also tip your bottles upside down, but then it ends up in the cap. Either way, it's fine. Then I'll take some Floetrol or water, depending on what you're painting. I don't like to use water unless I know I'm trying to do a painting that I want a lot of cells and such and some chemical reactions. So I'll just pour some Floetrol into my paint bottle. Put the cap on it. Give it a shake. Try to get some more paint out of the bottle. And I didn't put that much Floetrol in, so I'm estimating it's still a pretty good 1-to-1 ratio from paint to Floetrol. If I start adding more Floetrol to get the paint out, I'll just compensate by adding more paint to the mixture. Waste not. I can't stand throwing away bottles of paint knowing that I can probably still get at least a half an ounce to an ounce out of it, especially these big bottles. Smaller bottles are a lot easier. You empty these little ones out, add a little Floetrol in there, shake it up, and I do that about 2 times, and I get most of the paint out. So we'll do this about 2 times. This reminds me of that one song. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Shake your booty. I know, I'm a little cheesy and funny sometimes. But aren't all artists? We're just creative people. Nothing wrong with that. Oh yeah. Able to get a lot out of this bottle still. I'm glad I saved it. And I do have a cup of distilled water right here. So I'll just throw some water in there. And get just a little bit more paint out of the bottle. This is, again, a thicker paint, so there's actually a lot more left in this bottle than you think. It is super concentrated. I'm just going to show you what I see in my cup. You can see it as well. There are lots of bubbles in here. And if you don't want these popping up in your paint, let your paint sit for a while and let all these bubbles come to the surface. And you can throw a heat gun over the top. And that will help extinguish all the bubbles. Just like this. Ta-da! More bubbles. And what's that? And now I can start to see through the bottle. So I've pretty much gotten most of the paint out. And now I can recycle it. I'll wash it a little bit more. So now I know that I have more Floetrol to paint in this cup, so I'll just add a little bit more paint to get my full 16 ounces. And this is roughly a 1-to-1 ratio at this point. After you've been doing it a long time, you can pretty much eyeball your measurements. For small bottles, I'm using just a small popsicle stick, and for bigger portions I use the tongue depressors, which are easier to grip with your hands and such too. If you have arthritis, you're going to want to use the bigger sticks. I like to do it different every time. I don't do the same recipe every time. I mean, generally it's the same recipe mixture, but then I'll tweak it a little bit depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. Okay, so I have my big stockpile of white. Now I'm going to show you what you can do with another bottle that's almost empty. So I'm going to use a smaller bottle since I don't have a whole lot of paint left in these tubes. So smaller cup anyway, use a smaller cup. I'm going to cut the ends off because I can no longer get very much paint out of the tube spout. I'm going to cut the end off here. Squeeze out what I have left. Again, this is the thick type of paint. So you get a better bang for your buck when you use the thick ones. You can squeeze it out a little bit better through the end if you cut it off. versus trying to shake it and try to get it through that little spout at the bottom. See? Look at all that extra paint I'm able to get out. I've already squirted some out into the cup, but then look at all this. Look at all that paint somebody might have just thrown away because they couldn't get it out of the bottle. I've even, sometimes I'll squeeze all the air out of the bottle and I will suck up some Floetrol into the bottle and give it a good shake, and out comes more paint that way too, or you use water, whichever. But again, I don't like to waste paint if I can help it, so I'm just squeezing, and like a toothpaste container, bottle, tube, toothpaste tube, you just squeeze all the way through to the end till you can get the very last drop out. There. And then maybe I will throw a little water in there or take a paintbrush and scrape out the rest. I decided to use a paintbrush. There's enough clumps and bumps inside. I don't know if you can see that. But inside you can see around the edges. There is a lot more paint in there that I can use for my painting. So I'll just give it a good scrape. See? Look at all that extra paint. Not letting any drops go to waste. Except for the ones that drip off my canvas into the wrong spots. So, hopefully this is helpful. Because if you're like me and you don't like to waste, or you don't have a lot of money to spend on paint, this is one cost-effective way to get the most out of your money. There. Scraped it all. And now it's finally trashed. So looking at this container, I was able to get at least an ounce. This is definitely, see through here, all this and then all of this is definitely an ounce worth of paint that would have otherwise gotten trashed had I not saved it. And it will go into somebody's beautiful painting. There you go. I'm going to do the same thing with magenta, but I'm not going to bore you with a long segment for doing the exact same thing. I was totally able to save at least an ounce of each color just by doing that. So then I'll just add the Floetrol to both cups. If you wanted to measure it, it would look like you could use a cup that's the very exact same, or you can actually use measuring cups with the lines on them, or the color pour cups that have the measuring by ounces. So I'm curious as to find out exactly how much paint that I was able to save. So let's do some measuring. I'm going to measure just 1 ounce of Floetrol and see if it's about the same as these 2 cups, which I just saved from the tubes. Oh yeah, easily 1 ounce. So don't throw your tubes away. There's more paint in them. Cut the ends off, squeeze it all out. I just use the paintbrush, scrape the rest of it out. You could do it that way. You can use a popsicle stick, a tongue depressor, whichever works, whatever you have convenient to you, and get the last drop out and save yourself some money, because this is probably $2 worth of paint. Who knows? Depends on what area you're in. And if you can get them on sale. I tend to go shopping when I have a coupon. Alright, so we'll just mix 1 ounce Floetrol to the 1 ounce of paint. This is by Artist Loft. And we'll get a good ratio with just doing that. Because like I said, these are thicker paints. So when I use the thinner paints, I'll use less Floetrol. I'll use 1 part Floetrol to 2 parts paint. So it'd be 1 ounce of Floetrol. And these little bottles are 2 ounces. So it'd be 1 ounce Floetrol to 2 ounces of paint.